for women, who has worked for gender equality in India. Despite having a successful career for about 25 years, she didn't stop herself, realizing she didn't know enough about what is she going to do next. She then quit her job to work in the space for gender diversity and headed jobs for her foundation, which is a non-profit organization. This led her to her current journey. I welcome Neeraja Ganesh.
Thank you so much, Manisha. I hope I'm audible, clear, clearly, and let me also bring in my slides because, as always, we are worried whether things work. Let me just bring this on. I hope you're able to see this.
Yep.
Okay, great. All right. So let me say good morning, good afternoon. I know that we are across time zones, so maybe a good day is a better way to kind of address so that it kind of takes care of all the time zones. And I've titled today's talk as Marathon, Not a Sprint. Some of you might have heard this in the context of life. You know, people say life is a marathon, not a sprint. You might have also heard this in the context of a career, that all our careers are and have to be considered as marathons and not as sprints. So hopefully in the next 30 minutes, you will understand why people say this through the journey that I walk you through, which is my life journey, my career journey. Let me see if this moves. Yes, that's right. So I grew up in India. I continue to live in India, in a small, town in the southern part of India, in Kerala. And I grew up in an extremely conservative, Tamil Brahmin family. I grew up to be a very meek, timid, shy girl. Now, those people who haven't seen me in my early days will never believe that this is who I was. But yeah, that's how I grew up. And I was a plain Jane, and my test scores were very average. I did what I was asked to do, which was not much. So the very first time when I had to take a decision for myself was when I finished the 10th grade, and we had to make a choice of the subjects that we would like to study in the 11th and 12th grades. For those of you who are in India, you will understand, and I'm sure across the world, that's a big choice that people take because it's a stepping stone to what your future career is going to look like. And in India, in those days, and even now, it continues to be a kind of fashion and a necessity that the majority of the students pursue science. Now, today we are celebrating women in technology, and we need more, women and others in STEM. But here is a pressure on the students to pursue science, whether they like it, they have an aptitude or not. Science, it has to be. And because everybody else, in my peer group was taking science, I decided, okay, let me follow suit and take up science, which meant that I chose these subjects: physics, chemistry, maths, and biology as my subjects for the 11th and 12th grade. Now, if you were to ask me whether I liked these subjects, whether I was good at them, well, not really. The only thing which I loved and I was great at was maths. Physics, chemistry, and biology, I did struggle a bit. But anyways, because everybody else was doing it, and I felt that, I had to toe the line, I did that. And the other thing that also happens in India, if you take science, is that there is a pressure to choose engineering or medicine, right? These are the only two courses that people think, are the right courses for the kids to pursue, which means that you have to really prepare for all those competitive exams that are there for all the colleges across the country. Now, if you see the number of states in India, each of the state will have their own entrance exam for their state engineering colleges. And then, some of the premium institutes like the IIT, the Indian Institute of Technology, and the others will have their own entrance exams. So it is not very easy to crack these entrances. Of course, the story in the last 2 years has been different in India with the COVID situation, some of the exams getting cancelled and things like that. But I'm talking about years ago. And hence, students would actually enroll into certain tutorials so that they really are well prepared for these entrances. Now, I went and told my father that, I am also looking to do an engineering course. I again remind you that I come from an extremely conservative family where there was no question and talk about a career for a girl. All my parents would have wanted to do is to get me married after I had finished my graduation. So when I said I wish to do engineering, my father said, okay, if that's what you want to do, you can go ahead and do it, as long as you get a seat in Bangalore, which is where, I live. I've lived all my life. And he said, nowhere else. I'm not sending you out of Bangalore. I said, okay. When I spoke about those tutorials, he said, we've sent you to a very good college. I managed to get a seat in a very good college in Bangalore. He said, that's all that I'm going to spend on, you study from there, and if you can crack those entrances and get a seat in Bangalore, go ahead and do your engineering. Which means there was added pressure on me because I wasn't getting that additional help which all my other friends were getting. These tutorials used to happen before college, in the morning, after college, in the evening, and they would get so much of practice, problems and questions, and there would be mock tests almost every other week. I had no access to any of these resources. So it was all the more hard for me to prepare. And the other thing that was going around was that these 2 years, people almost lived like, saints, cut off from any pleasures of life. Well, there wasn't too much in those days. There was some TV, maybe a few movies outside that you could catch, friends, not so much, that is available today, but we cut off ourselves from all of that. No TV for the 2 years, no movies, no friends, just study, 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 study. Extremely difficult 2 years. So I also locked myself up and, tried my best at, studying those difficult subjects. Now, exams over, if you were to ask me my marks, they were pathetic. I'm mildly putting it, pathetic, because I wasn't, in any way aligned to understand physics or chemistry or biology. My maths marks were okay because I was good at that, but they were okay. They were not what I could have otherwise scored because I was putting so much of, focus on the other 3 subjects, despite which I really could not score good marks. Well, I managed to get a seat in engineering. The way it happens is they publish lists. So the first list, and there'll be about 3,000, 5,000, depending on the number of seats available, names will be there. So I managed to see my name in the first list, but it was not in Bangalore. It was for a mechanical engineering course in some rural area, in Karnataka. So I knew this is it. I'm not going to go and speak to my father, negotiate anymore. My dreams of an engineering are over. My friends told me that I must still, pursue it because there is a provision for applying for a transfer. Because what happens is students will apply and write entrances across the country and, for those prestigious institutes. And if they get there, then they will leave their seat in Karnataka, in Bangalore, and go away. So there is a possibility for students to get transferred from wherever they have got into a particular college that they wish to. But I said, I'm not even having this conversation with my father because it's very, very clear. He had made it very clear. So what next? And this time I decided that I'm going to do something which I wish to do and not going to, follow the crowd. So I knew I was good at maths. So I wanted to look for a course which was maths and subjects aligned to maths. My mother was, telling me, hey, there's a college next door and they've got this BSc physics, chemistry, maths. There is a BSc chemistry, botany, zoology, the usual subjects. And I said, no, I'm not going to do that. I know it very, very clearly that this time I'm going to just pursue what I am passionate about. And I scouted around. I'm talking about the late 80s. So there was no internet. So I went college to college and looked around. And thankfully, in a college a bit away from my house, I found this combination: maths, statistics, economics. Now, maths was, what I was looking for. Statistics is aligned to maths, and I thought economics is something like maths. So I went and enrolled in this college. We were only about 20 students, who were in this combination, because it's not a combination. It wasn't a very well-known combination in those days. If you were to ask now, of course, I think it's a premium combination, right? There's data science that is kind of evolving, and maths and statistics and economics, these kinds of subjects really will take you in that direction. In fact, my 19-year-old daughter is now doing a BSc in math, statistics, and computer science. But those days, it was like, okay, you don't get any other seat, then maybe you get a seat in this combination. So you can see the number of students. There were about maximum 20 students who had enrolled for this combination. But what it did to me was that I enjoyed the rest of the 3 years of my college, right? Because these were subjects that I was passionate about. I used to solve maths problems like crossword puzzles. And I topped every test, every exam, and I was the topper in the final year. What a difference, between the 11th and 12th standard, from the life that I led and also the marks that I got, to, what I did in the next 3 years. And hence, my first message to you all is, you need to have a passion for something and pursue that passion. If you have a passion for something, you will create the talent. So the same girl who kind of got such pathetic marks in the 12th, who might have been written off, actually topped, the college in her undergrad. So pursue your passion. Each of us knows what our passion is, but I'm not sure how many of us really pursue the passion, because all of us are just following the crowd. You kind of, think, what are the others going to say, or will I actually make a mark if I just pursue my passion? But do so, because if you have passion, you will create the talent. Now, as I already told you, that my parents were not really bothered about a job or a career for myself, and all they wanted to do was to get me married. In those days, it happens today also, but may not be that prevalent. But in those days, it used to be what is called as an arranged marriage. So the parents will go and find the boy for the girl, and maybe, the girl gets to meet the boy a couple of times, and then you kind of decide, okay, it's a hit, and we can, kind of sign up for an entire life, and, the marriage happens. So my parents started that search for the boy. Now, I, in my mind, in my heart, I really wanted to work. I wanted to earn a little bit of money for myself before I got married. So I told my father that while you're doing the search for the boy, can I do this, additional course? Now, the obvious progression after having done a bachelor's in maths and statistics and economics is to do a master's in one of these subjects. And I could have walked in, with the kind of marks that I had. And majority of my friends actually chose to do a master's in statistics. But I was in a hurry because I wanted to get into a job before my father could find this groom. And, my father was very clear. If he comes and if he says you should not work, then you have to stop working. And I told you, I was a meek, timid girl. I was not a rebel or anything like that. So I said, yeah, if he says stop working, I will stop working. So I was in such a mad rush. So I couldn't afford 2 years of a master's. So I told, I was looking for a course which could get me to a job very quickly. And that was the boom of, the IT, in India, and of course, globally also in the early 90s. And there were a lot of institutes who came up with these courses, software development courses. One of them was NIIT. It was a prestigious institute then and continues to be a prestigious training institute today in India and I think across the globe. I asked my father if I could do a course there. My father was clear. He said, you can do, but when we find this boy, and if this boy says you have to stop studies, then you have to stop studies. So I said, okay. So I went and, did this aptitude test that we had to kind of do. And they told me I was very, very good. And they said I can enroll for a 4-semester, a 2-year course. But it can be done semester-wise. Every semester is 6 months. So I said, okay, let me go ahead and do this. It was an advanced diploma in systems management. And I enrolled into this course. I did my first semester, which was the very basics of algorithms and, a programming language called COBOL. And then I went ahead and did my second and third semester in parallel. So that's NIIT and that's me. So those, arrows will tell you that's me, so many years ago. I again decided that, I want to be, in this mad rush. So you could do your 2 semesters in parallel, because each of the semesters offers a different kind of a programming language for you to learn. So the first semester is the basics. If you kind of, have finished that, then you can do as many programming languages as you prefer, right? So I went ahead and, picked up these 2 semesters in parallel. Again, everybody told me that, I'm making a mistake. I'm going to, flunk in both the semesters. I'm not going to get good marks. But I knew, right? I knew very, very clearly what I was after. I was in a mad rush to get into a job. So I didn't have time that I could, waste, if I can say that, on, okay, taking it slow. And I went ahead, and by the end of the 3rd semester, I had a contract job in my hand. So the second message that I would like to give all of you is create a vision for yourself that makes you want to jump out of the bed. So I was that focused. I wanted that job. And I was kind of in a race with my father while he was trying to find, this boy for me. I was trying to, get myself a job. So yes, I managed to get myself a contract assignment in a company called as Sonata, along with a few others. We were about 10 or 12 of us who got, picked up from NIIT for this contract assignment in Sonata. Now, our 3rd semester had not yet completed. We had a few weeks remaining, but I had a 4th semester also, because I had enrolled for this 4-semester course, right? Now in Sonata, again, I'm talking about the early 90s when resources were scarce. So we were working in shifts. So if we were about 16 people in the team, there were only 8 PCs. So they made, some of us come in the morning shift, which was 7 to 3, and others, in the evening, which was 3 to 11. Now I was put in the morning shift. Because one is, a girl, and how can you put the girl in the late evening, late night shift? And 2, because I had this 4th semester classes, which were scheduled from 3 to 5. So it kind of, just about, worked out well for us. Now, there was another problem that was there. In the early 1990s, we didn't have computers at home. So all the studies, all the practicals, all the projects, practice that we had to do, we used to do it at NIIT, at the institute. Now, we used to have only 6 hours of classes in the institute in a week, 4 hours of theory and 2 hours of practicals. 2 hours of practicals, as all of you know, is just not enough to, learn anything. So we used to hang around in the institute looking for a spare PC. So there would be, a particular faculty member who wouldn't have come, so that class wouldn't be there, and then we would sneak into the lab and, practice. Or there might be a couple of students who would have bunked classes, and so those PCs are available, we would go in and practice. So which meant we were actually hanging around in the institute from morning till night. And with this shift business, now that was going to be difficult, because you don't know when you'll get the spare PC, whether it's the morning or the evening, which meant I had only 2 options. One was either I take a break from studies, which is what some of my friends did, because I told you, right, there were a few more weeks of the 3rd semester to complete, and some of my friends said, it's a contract assignment for 3 months. Let me take a break from studies. Let's put, all our heart into, this job. And if we do well, there is a possibility of getting it into a permanent assignment. So I could have taken a break from my studies like my friends. But I was worried, what if, this groom comes in between and my father says, you have to get married and then I can never go back and complete my studies. Or I leave the job and I just focus on my studies. Which was also not a thing that I wanted to do, because I was in a hurry to get a job, and here I had a job in hand. So what did I do? I went and spoke to my manager. Remember this meek, timid, shy girl? I still decided I will speak to my manager, and I told her that I have this predicament. I did not say anything. I said I just don't know what to do. So Suman Deshpande, who was the manager, she took a couple of days, and then she came back to me and she said, we've discussed and we're going to make an exception for you. What was the exception? The exception was that they were going to give me a dedicated PC. So she said, you can come in whenever, you can go whenever, as long as you finish the work allocated for you for that week by the Sunday. and you adhere to the quality standards that are prescribed for the entire team. So she was not going to make exceptions around that. She was not going to give me lesser number of programs. She was not going to say, okay, you can have more defects in your code. But the flexibility given was that there's a dedicated PC. I don't have to share it with anyone. So, I can come and go, whenever, as long as I finish the work. And at the end of, so this contract assignment actually extended another 3 months and another 3 months, so totally 9 months. And in those 9 months, I went ahead and completed my 4th semester and completed my NIIT course, got my advanced diploma with absolutely fantastic grades. At the same time, we got a permanent assignment at Sonata at the end of those 9 months. So just like everybody else, I also became a permanent employee of Sonata. But the difference was that unlike the others who had taken a break from studies, and then it was so very hard for them to go back and complete their course, I had also completed my course. So you can see there me in Sonata in 1994. And I think because I asked, and hence I got this flexibility, is one of the reasons why I have had such a long career. So that other picture is in 2019 when I was heading the Jobs for Her Foundation. So yeah, it's been a long marathon of a career. So what is the message in the story? The message in the story is ask. Ask for what you want. What is the worst that can happen, right? They may deny you whatever you are asking for, but there's a 50% chance that you may get what you wanted. So I asked for something else. I went and asked my father that I'm enjoying work. So is it possible for you to now tweak your search criteria for the boy to find someone who's okay with me working? So what's the worst that can happen? He would have probably said no, because he's already struggling to find a boy for me, right? He's been looking around, for a boy since 1991 or something, and he's still not found. And I'm asking him, can you find someone, who's okay with me working? But he agreed. He said, because he was also seeing the passion that I was having for the job, the excitement, the enjoyment, and of course the money that is coming in, because the kind of IT salaries that we were getting in those days, and it continues, right? There's always a disparity. I'm sure my father had not seen that for so many years in his career, so he kind of agreed. And hence, if you don't ask, you don't get. So go ahead and ask. Now, I will also tell you why is it that he was finding it so difficult to find a groom for me. One of the things that I had made very clear to him at the very beginning was that I wanted to be in India. Now, why am I saying, what's the big deal about this, right? So that was a time, that was a period when the IT, boom was there, and the markets had opened up, especially the US market for software professionals. And most of the companies from India were sending, people abroad to the US, especially for jobs, or people were kind of trying to find jobs abroad and going there. Of course, why would they do that? One is, the dollar to India rupee conversion, of course, would give them, that much more benefit. But also, the dream of, seeing an overseas country, living there, enjoying those perquisites, and probably, touring the whole world. But I was very clear that I didn't want to do that. Most of the boys, the eligible boys, especially the Tamil Brahmin boys, were in the US. My father was struggling to find someone, qualified enough in India for me. And I knew I'm the only child. So if I went away, I might have a good life in terms of everything else that I described, but I knew my parents would struggle without me. So I really wanted to be around them, and I wanted to be, with my family. So I had, put in that criteria. A lot of my father's friends and family, uncles, everyone came and told my father that he was doing something wrong by listening to me, and because it's already I was already 23 or so, an age by which girls would have been married and probably had a kid or so, and they were kind of telling him it's not the right thing for him to do. but my father kind of realized why I was saying that, and he allowed me, that kind of liberty to kind of look at a boy who was in India and was going to be settling in India. And I've been married now for close to 26 years. That's my family. So you can see my mother in that picture with my daughter. The other lady, the orange sari, is my mother-in-law. We've lived in a joint family, all in Bangalore, and of course my father and father-in-law passed away a few years ago, and the other blue sari is my daughter. But I have had a life which, is unimaginable because of the fact that I chose a partner who also believed, that the family is important. And while the entire fraternity around that time, be it my cousins, my friends, were going abroad, I made a very, very, different choice, a choice which I believed in. So the next message that I wish to give you is trust yourselves. Doesn't matter if what you want to do, what you believe in, what your passions are very, very different to what the rest of the world is doing. No matter what anyone else thinks, trust yourself. You will be right, and you will reach, as it says, the bigness of your wildest dreams. Now, one of the things that I also do once in a while is I Google my own name, and just to find out, what Google thinks about me, what comes up. So this is what LinkedIn says, right? Passionate to bring about a positive mindset among women and students. This is a site called Women's Web, and it describes me as an author, so I write a bit. Then this is MIT, Massachusetts Institute of Technology, on their website. It says that of course I have switched in the space of into the space of gender diversity after having mentoring women. I was a jury a few times for their Global Innovation Challenge, and hence I'm featured on their website. There's another website called Bhogya. They had interviewed me for a podcast where they say 25 plus years of IT experience, and then I've been working as a freelance consultant. Then, of course, the Jobs for Her site, he'd said Director Relationships, National Education Society. So I was an MC for their diversity awards. At that time, I was, actually working in the academia. I was working at National Education Society of Karnataka. And this is another media house where they said, so of course, this is a bit dated, but I was a technical director from Capgemini. Now, how did I make all of this happen, right? So I told you that, your life and your career is a marathon, but if you look at the kind of things that are being described about me, it's so varied, it's so diverse. How did I make that happen? And the secret to that is ACT. People say we don't get opportunities, especially women, they say most of the good opportunities, the challenging opportunities, go to the men. We never get it. I say, why do you even wait to get it? Why don't you create your own opportunities? And how do you create these opportunities? So how did this happen to me? A mantra that I follow is treat every interaction as an opportunity, which means that even this interaction that we are having, can turn into an opportunity. So when I was at Capgemini, my last corporate job, I used to run the D&I initiatives, the diversity and inclusion initiatives there. And thus I happened to be part of the Jobs for Her mentoring circles. I used to mentor a lot of women on the Jobs for Her portal. And as I quit from my corporate world, Jobs for Her was starting the not-for-profit foundation, and they asked me if I would head it. That job was not advertised. I didn't seek it out, but they reached out to me. When I was at Jobs for Her, I used to be invited to do talks like this. And I realized that when I speak, people are really inspired, and they say there are a lot of actionable insights in what I say because it comes from my experience. And so I thought I have to share this experience wide. And I started writing. So that's how you see that Women's Web over there. And, I'm going to be publishing a book soon. Would anyone or myself have thought that, oh, I'll be called as an author in some time? Similarly, each of these opportunities have not just come my way, but I have created them. And the only way to create them is to act. And the time for action is now. All of us try and, we think that, okay, this is not the right time. This is the pandemic, or, maybe, we need to look for a better time, or I have to create an impact of, 100,000, and hence let me have a grand plan around it. There will never be a right time. The right time is now, this very moment. Even if the circumstances are not conducive, act. Even if you're able to move just a millimeter ahead, that's good enough. Over a period of time, you will reach your destination, whatever you had dreamt for. So now, yeah, this is a very, very different kind of perspective that I'm going to bring in for people to start thinking, from what is the story between a washing machine and Neerja? Well, there's no story between washing machine and Neerja, but I want all of you to start thinking about the uses of a washing machine. And quickly, I know that, my time is running out, but I will quickly narrate the story. There was a farmer who called this Chinese washing machine manufacturer and said that the washing machine is not working well, and hence he needs a technician to come and check it out. So the technician goes over there because the complaint was that it is not washing well, it's not cleaning all the dirt. The technician goes to the farmer's house, and then he sees that the farmer is actually washing his potatoes in the washing machine. He's not washing clothes, but he's actually washing his harvest, which is potatoes, for this farmer in the washing machine. And of course, the washing machine is not designed, to wash potatoes and that kind of, hard dust to kind of, be thrown out through the pipe that the washing machine had. Now, what would usually happen? The technician would, give some yarn to the farmer and say, no, you're not supposed to use the washing machine for this, and close the ticket and come home. But this technician actually went back to his office and he said, you know what, there is another use for the washing machine. So there is a set of, users who would like to wash their crops, their potatoes and all of that in the washing machine. Can we design a washing machine that will do this? And this company actually got to work and then came out with another model that actually washes potatoes and crops. Now, why am I telling you this story? Because all of you, and I think a large population today are women who are listening, and you would have heard of this term, diversity. Diversity is important. The diversity that you bring to the table is what is going to make you put down on the table the various uses of the washing machine. Now, the company never hired a farmer, right? And hence they could not think that a farmer will want to do this also. But the minute you have a diverse workforce, each of you is bringing in your own unique perspectives. And that is the way you're going to make a difference to your organization. And hence, I once again, talk about follow your passion, just like I followed and picked up the course that I wanted to do at my undergrad level. Have a vision, which was I wanted a job very quickly. So I said, I'm just going to do this course all in parallel and get that job. Ask for what you want. Like I asked for, my manager that I needed to work beyond shifts because of the, course that I also wanted to attend. And I asked my father that find me someone who's okay with me working. I've been married for 26 years, worked for 29 years, and both the sides have, worked out beautifully. Trust your decisions. I trusted my decision to stay in India because that is what I wanted. I wanted family to be a priority and for me to be able to take care of them. And finally, take action just like I did at every moment, because of which I am where I am today. And that's a picture of me receiving an award from TEDx for my 25 years of corporate journey. And hence I say life and career is a marathon, not a sprint. Believe in yourself and go ahead and pursue that path that you wish to and make that difference both in your lives and in your organization. Finally, for some more inspiration, I would like to leave this picture with you. This is a book called Leelavati's Daughters about the women scientists of India. A very, very inspirational book. I think there are about 100 scientists, who are featured here. You've got about 2-3 pages about every woman scientist there, and the struggles that they kind of endured, and still the outcomes that they achieved. And it's not a recent times; it's across so many years. I would ask each of you to, take a look at this book, read some of this, get inspired, and someday I wish that your names are also featured in books like this, and you become the role models for the next generation to follow. So that's all that I have for today, and I would love to kind of remain connected with all of you. That's my LinkedIn, Neeraja Ganesh. Do send a message. And that you heard me at today's event, and I'll be happy to remain connected with you and take this conversation ahead. So I will stop sharing, and I'm happy to take questions.
If anybody would like to put a question, simply raise your hand, and we can take it from there. I guess I'll kick off. I have one. Is there anything that you would change about your career?
I don't think so, because I have always known my priorities, and hence my career has kind of had a trajectory based on those priorities that I have had. Of course, the first 10 years of my career, I continued to be extremely meek and timid. But there was a point when I was pushed into picking up a team and leading them, and that push kind of enabled me to kind of bring about a transformation in myself, and that's how I am here. So maybe if the push had not happened, then I would have been a very different person. So that's why I would really urge and say that I think one has to go beyond their cocoon and keep looking out for opportunities. For me, those opportunities kept coming in the first 10 years, after which I started creating those opportunities. But I think I'm hugely satisfied.
Good, good. So, Sia, did you want to ask your question?
Did you call me? Sorry. I wanted to ask one question, if this is a good time.
Yep.
Yeah, thank you for your talk. That's very encouraging. I wonder, in your 25 of IT career, what was the biggest challenge that you can recall, and how did you, overcome it?
Okay, so the biggest challenge in the 25 years of IT career. I think you are always the only woman around the table as you grow in the career, right? So I also come from an era where there weren't too many women. So I was almost, always lonely around the table. And as I grew in the last few roles, I was probably the only woman always. Now, is it going to be a challenge? It is going to be a challenge in many ways. But the first thing that I did was I did not think of myself as a woman. Because what that does to you is you then start putting that lens to everything. So if somebody has a feedback on the suggestion that you have made, then you start thinking, okay, that's because you're a woman and that's why they're suggesting, they have a feedback, right? And that kind of blinds you at times. So I never thought of myself as a woman. I ensured that I took the feedback in the way that it came. I would, take my time to evaluate whether that feedback had any stuff in it. If it had, then I, kind of worked on that. If not, then I would, challenge it and then move ahead. But the challenge will always be that you will be in the minority as a woman as you grow, in the organization, and you have to find ways to still ensure that you are heard, you are listened to, and you are able to kind of, put your points across the table and get it implemented. One of the ways is to kind of forget that you're a woman. And secondly, keep your ground, stay focused. It's okay if you are, shut up, you're asked to shut up twice, thrice in the meeting. Fourth time they will listen to you. So go for it.
Helen, do you want to ask your question?
Yes, great. Hi, Neeraja. One of the questions that I think I sort of struggle with, and having worked in many male-dominated industries over the years, like yourself too, I think is whether companies should make more of a, rather than a special case, but more of a natural supportive case for women developing their careers in management. As you say, you're quite often the only female in a room, and I just wonder, some companies still struggle with actually recognizing that should there be additional development, because obviously females are in the minority, as we look at all the gender statistics. It just seems that some companies do this very well and some companies still really don't actually pay it any attention. Just wonder what your views were on that.
Sure. So I think, both the things have to be done. One is that you need to be part of any development programs that is rolled out to all employees, regardless of gender. Because you have to be also part of that, a diverse crowd that is attending a training program, and only then they will realize that, okay, there is this perspective that a woman is bringing. Because a lot of time, people don't empathize because they haven't really seen this or realized this. For example, despite me having been a woman in Capgemini, they asked me to put out a recommendation to hire women on a career break. And my first thing was, what's the big deal about a woman on a career break? You hire men and you hire women and you hire a woman on a career break. But anyways, they had asked me to put out a recommendation. So I went and did some research and realized that there are specific portals available for women on a career break on which, jobs are put out for this unique, class of employees. And then when I heard from these women is when I realized that they are actually really subjected to a lot of trauma during those interviews, because they are asked about their break, as if, all their experience prior to the break has, just suddenly vanished. And they have learned so much despite being on a break, right? There are other skills that they bring to the table. So that empathy is missing. So being a woman, I could not empathize because I have never taken a career break. So it is always required that you also go into mixed groups for all your development programs. But yes, there is also a need for the specialized development program for women because certain things women don't do that are expected of them or that the men automatically do. As an example, we always struggle to claim our achievements. We have this imposter sitting within us which continues to say, oh, I don't think you've done a great job. You just happen to be here by luck. And somebody is going to, get to know that you don't deserve to be here. So the imposter is always putting us down, and hence we are not able to claim our achievements and say, oh, I've done a great job. But a man, will never, kind of have this problem. Even if he will have an imposter syndrome, but he knows how to deal with it better. So there has to be specialized development programs for women. But I think it is a must for you to also be in a mixed group so that the other person is able to empathize. Why is it that you feel this way about certain things?
Oh, you're on mute, Helen.
I put it back off so there was no interference. Sorry. Yeah, I totally agree. I wouldn't suggest that females are segregated. Obviously, that general management training is open to all. Absolutely. It's just that challenge that I think some companies still don't look at female leaders and needing additional support that is specific to them. So yeah, it's just that dialogue that is really interesting. Thanks.
Yeah, and development programs don't have to be just training programs or workshops or say talks like this. They have to be a mix of mentoring as well as coaching, networking sessions, or just shadowing another leader. So there are a gamut of things that organizations can do to develop both women and men. So it's not just training programs. That's what I would like to kind of
totally. More role models.
Yeah, absolutely.
Anna, did you want to ask your question?
Yeah, thanks. Thank you for your talk. It was really interesting. It's kind of related to Helen's one, and you sort of semi-answered it, but it was a question about what of those of us who are in more senior leadership positions, what can we do to help bring up the sort of the next generation of leaders within our company, and are there any recommendations for things that we can do to encourage, specifically to encourage females into the more leadership positions as their career moves forward?
Absolutely. I think each of us has a responsibility towards that. And when we are in senior leadership positions, I think we also have the wherewithal to make certain things happen. So I would definitely urge you, if you could, mentor or you could coach some of the other women that you see have a potential, but they are shy to speak up, or, they kind of have the imposter telling them, no, you're not yet ready, then kind of, nudge them and trigger them. If you could launch anything like a small network in your own team of these women to come together and give them opportunities which they otherwise wouldn't get, or put them on some stretch projects or something like that, that gives them the confidence. I think at the end of the day, it is the confidence factor which, kind of makes things happen. Like for me, for 10 years, I was such a meek, timid, shy girl. And then I was pushed into, managing this team. And which is when I realized that I can't continue to be quiet. Now I got that opportunity, but maybe these opportunities don't come by so easily. So why don't you create that opportunity for these girls and, see how they are going to flourish and mentor them through that journey. That would be a great thing.
Thank you. That's really useful.
Great. Does anybody else have any questions that they'd like to ask? Vania, sorry if I've pronounced your name wrong.
Veena.
Veena, thank you.
Hi, Joe, and hi, Neeraj. It was nice hearing you, but it's not probably a general, not a question focused to Neeraj, but generally to all women. I have got a daughter. I obviously want her to get into engineering, but she's not interested. So, do you think it is wise for me to get her into this industry, or just leave her to what she wants to do? Or is there a way to, I'm working, she doesn't like 9-to-5 jobs. She wants to do something which keeps her busy. She doesn't like to sit like me in one place and sit in front of computer. But what do you think? Should I be in any way making her, what can I do to change her way of thinking?
Yeah, so I think one of the things that you need to understand is why is it that she doesn't like engineering, and there's nothing wrong. I told you,
Yes.
right? Pressure from the parents towards any kind of a career is not the good thing. But there is also something that you need to do to assess why. Why is it? So I knew that for example, I told you my daughter is currently pursuing math, statistics, computer science. So we are a family of maths. My mother was a math student, I was a math student, and my daughter is a math student. So it kind of probably is generational in the genes, I have to say. But there was in the 5th standard, when she was in the 5th grade, she gave up on maths. And I had to really go and, find out what was happening. And I realized that the teacher who was dealing with maths in that year, she was the best teacher in the school. But these students were hating her. And the realization was that the best teacher of the school was always teaching the 10th grade till that year. And now suddenly they had given the 5th grade to her. And she didn't know how to deal with the 5th graders. She was trying to do exactly what she was doing with the 10th graders. And hence, all these students kind of, just lost interest in math. And I went and gave that feedback to the teacher. And she took it very, very positively. And she said, you look at it, by the end of the year, your daughter would have got her interest back in math. And she did. And look at her now, she's actually studying math in the undergrad. So try and find out. And there may be a very good reason because of which she doesn't like it. If that is something which is, transactional, you can, get her to overcome that, then please still pursue that engineering path or the science path. But if you really see that her passion is elsewhere, I think she should choose to do that, because that is where she will really excel. But today, nobody and no field is away from technology. So there is technology embedded in every field. So yeah, she will somehow or the other be part of that.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you.
Is there any other questions? They've been great so far. No? Okay. I have one question. Another question that I'd quite like to ask is, During your career, what have been sort of the biggest positive changes that you've seen, and that it kind of gives you kind of hope for more change in the future? Because I think that is hopefully on the cards, in terms of greater diversity, flexibility, and all these sort of things.
Yeah, I think what I have seen is this emergence of a large number of platforms and networks over the years, which was missing in our days, right? So if we had a problem, then we kept it to ourselves. And a lot of time the family is not able to help us because they have never come across something like this. So in my family, I went and worked in an IT field. Of course, my father was doing something else. My mother is a homemaker. So even if I brought those challenges and discussed it with them, one, they're not interested because they never told me to pursue a career. Two, they can't help me. But today, for everything, there is a platform available. So I would really urge, all of you to kind of look out for these kinds of networking circles where you can become part of. You can offer your mentoring and your coaching services and also take, all the help that is available outside. I know that, in the organization, you're doing these kinds of circles, I'm sure, and you have a variety of forums where you can seek help. But it's always good to kind of also be connected with the outside world. Your network increases. It's very, very important to have a large network. And I see that as a big positive. There are just far too many networks today, and sometimes you struggle in terms of just thinking which one should I be part of, which event should I attend. But it's a good thing that there are so many, so you can really choose. I think that's a big positive in the direction to say, there is a need. People have realized that women need this kind of close sisterhood, and they're kind of bringing this about both within organizations and outside. And many of these are driven by women because they have realized it, right? That I had a problem, and so I think the only way to kind of solve it is to make it available for other women. So yeah, that's a positive.
Thank you. Helen, I think your hand is up from your question before, but if you do have another one, please shout. But I guess...
Yeah, no, I think it hasn't removed, that's fine.
No worries. I guess we bring things to an end there, but is there anything closing you would like to say before we end the call? Or, final words of inspiration?
Sure. So I really strongly believe in believing in yourselves, and that's why I kind of put that in bold letter. So I remember our conversation, Joe, and maybe I'll narrate that story in closing to say that I was selected for the Senior Women's Leadership Development Program, and it was a very prestigious program, and of course only 11 women across the globe from that organization were selected, which meant that there was a huge selection process, and there would have been a lot of fights, managers, fighting with each other to say, no, my, person should be there on that program versus the other. And finally, I was there, one among the 11, right? And as part of the orientation, we were told that the dress code, so this program was to be in Paris, the dress code for this program is Western formals. So all of us had to be in Western formals. Now, I have never worn Western formals in my life because I don't feel comfortable in it. I'm always in saris or salwars, the Indian, formal wear. And I went ahead and told them that this is not something that I can wear because I don't feel comfortable in. And they were shocked, but the coordinator who was talking to me was shocked. That I could even suggest that I will not wear what is supposed to be the rule. And she said, okay, let me go back and talk to the people and see what they have to say. I very clearly told her that there was a criteria based on which they had evaluated all the nominations, and I'm sure dress code was not a criteria. So if today you're going to say, sorry, if you don't wear this, you will not be part of this cohort, I'm happy not to be part of this cohort because I'm not really thinking that makes such a big difference. So she went and spoke, and then she came back to me and she said, yeah, it's okay, you can kind of dress up in what you're comfortable in, but she just said, be in muted colors, black, white, beige kind of a thing, because we Indians usually wear very, very bright colors. I wear bright colors. I like to be brightly dressed up. I said, that's not a big deal. I can shop and find a few salwars in these colors, and I went. And there were 4 of us from India. There were a few from US and some from UK and one from Japan. On the first day when we met all of them, Only the other 3 women from India were in Western formals, like the so-called, I think, suit and skirt or suit and pant or whatever. Everybody else, and this was Paris in the month of May, right? So nice, it was spring and then breaking into summer. So nice, pleasant colored clothes, long skirts, flowery clothes and things like that. And I realized that it's only we who are trying to kind of just abide without asking questions, while everybody else is kind of, happy to do what they want to do. Maybe they've also had that conversation like I had. So that is why I say, ask and believe in what you want to do and trust yourselves. Those are very simple messages, but I'm telling you, it will take you a long way. So stand your ground. If you have a real reason, present that reason, and I'm sure, you will get accepted the way you are. And that is why you are there. That is the diversity that you have to bring to the table. If you're just going to be like everybody else, then there is no diversity, right? So that's my, parting message.
Thank you. Oh, good words to end on. Well, thank you so much for your time. Thank you to everyone that joined and for asking your questions. Really appreciate that. So, yeah, we'll end there. But thanks so much, and have a good day, everyone.
Thank you,
Thanks.
and look forward to meeting you some other time. Bye-bye.
Thank you
Bye.
very
much. Bye. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you.